Did you know that in Mushoku Tensei, Rudeus tells Roxy the details of something he's kept a secret from everyone? In the anime, after Paul's death, Roxy spent a night with Rudeus to help him through his depression, and afterwards Rudeus opens up to Roxy and asks her what he should do to move on if he feels like he was a bad son. However, in the light novels, there is much more to this conversation. Instead of telling Roxy that he feels like a bad son, he instead tells her a story about a man that he claims is made up and asks her what she thinks the man in the story should do. However, without her knowledge, the story Rudeus was telling her was secretly true. It was the story of something he's never told anyone before. The story about his past life and how he was reborn into a new world. In the story, he included details about how he secluded himself when he was young and how he neglected his parents and didn't even go to their funeral when they passed. He goes on about how he was reborn and given a second chance at life, and how he thought everything was going good until he made a mistake that cost the life of someone dear to him, and how their passing reminded him of the passing of his parents in his previous life, and how it was too late to mourn their loss. Did you know that in Mushoku Tensei, Eris's real reason for leaving Rudeus was because she thought she wasn't good enough for him? During their journey together after the mana displacement incident, Rudeus turned into a pillar of support for Eris, always showing strength even when she couldn't. His ability to win battles against strong opponents or come up with a plan when they didn't know what to do made Eris put him on a pedestal. This made Eris constantly try to become stronger so that she could keep up with Rudeus, as she didn't want him to feel like she was a burden to him. However, during their battle with Orsted, her inability to do anything to stop Orsted made her feel like she was useless, especially because Rudeus was able to put up a fight. This made her fear that Rudeus had become so strong that he might not need her anymore and abandon her. Due to this fear, and her strong feelings for Rudeus, she kept herself close to him, which eventually led her to using her body to keep him close. But it was because of that act that she remembered how young Rudeus was, and despite that, he was still stronger than her. This made her realize that she would only hold Rudeus back if she stayed the way she was, causing her to leave for the Sword Sanctum to get stronger in hopes that one day she can come back to Rudeus and be strong enough to stand side by side with him. Did you know that in the 7 Deadly Sins, Meliodas' and Elizabeth's personalities were originally supposed to be drastically different? Before the official 7 Deadly Sins manga was released, there was a one-shot chapter for it that covered Elizabeth meeting Meliodas. This chapter would have a similar plot to the one shown in the story, but it would also have some major differences. Some of these differences would be the absence of Hawk and Hawk's mom, Meliodas having a giant sword, and Meliodas actually being able to cook. However, one of the most notable differences would be how different Meliodas' and Elizabeth's personalities are in the one-shot compared to the actual series. In fact, their personalities would be almost the opposite of what they were in the official series, as Meliodas would be very shy and sometimes frightened, and he would be especially shy around Elizabeth, while Elizabeth would have a very outgoing, bold, and energetic personality to the point where she would sometimes do ridiculous things.
Is it possible to ever put an end to Reinhard in ReZero? He's literally the strongest person in the verse and practically immortal. So could anyone defeat him? Because of all his divine protections, it's basically impossible to even touch him. This guy literally has a divine protection for everything, and that includes a divine protection that makes projectiles impossible to hit him, a protection that lets him dodge any attacks he's experiencing for the first time, as well as surprise attacks, and a protection that allows him to respond to attacks he's seen before with a significantly faster speed than before. But even if someone were able to land a fatal blow on him, just like Regulus did, his divine protection of the Phoenix would just bring him back to life. And if someone managed to land another blow after that, he would just keep coming back. And the only way to stop it would be for Reinhard to manually get rid of his protection himself. And it basically means Reinhard couldn't be taken out unless he decided that he wanted to be. But I don't think there's any scenario where he'd decide that he wanted to be beaten, which leaves people one option if they wanted to defeat him. And that is to literally be as smart as someone like Ayane Koji and find a way to manipulate him or create a situation that forces him into allowing himself to be defeated. Why did Subaru sacrifice himself to save the maid sisters in Arc 2 of ReZero? In the previous loops, it goes without question that Rem did a ton of stuff to harm him, but in the end, Subaru still decided to restart his loop after Rem died to save both her and Rom, even when he didn't know if he'd actually return by death that time. First, it's important to understand the reasons Rem even harmed Subaru in the first place were because of his own actions. In both loops Rem took action against him, he was acting suspicious, but Subaru didn't only experience her bad side, he also experienced the good sides of both the maid sisters during his loops as well, and began to care for them and the rest of those in the mansion. So when he came to the cliff and recognized that the sisters cared about him as well, the real choice he was faced with was abandoning everything to run away from his problems and live with the guilt, or risk his life to save everybody. And I think the choice he made shows who Subaru really is. Yeah, he didn't want to abandon those at the mansion, but more importantly, he didn't want to be abandoned. That's why he said that sacrificing himself was the easiest option. It was easier for him to risk not returning by death for the chance to save those at the mansion and have a relationship with them, rather than live alone with the guilt.
Do you know what Eris's sword rank was when she left Rudius in Mushoku Tensei? During their years of travels, Eris was relentlessly training with Rui Jerd to get stronger with the sword, but she never got an official title or rank that matched her skill, unlike Rudius, who could call himself a Saint-class mage. However, that would change once Eris left, as she went with Ghislaines to the Sword Sanctum to get proper training in the Sword God style. Once they got there, Eris made herself known, and she told the Sword God that she wanted to take down Orsted, and her ambitions made him take interest in her, but he also wanted to see if she had the talent to back it up. Because of that, he had two of his students challenge Eris in a duel, and they were both sword saints who knew the Sword of Light. However, Eris took down the first one with ease, and the outcome of the second duel wasn't so different either, as Eris was able to embarrass them in little to no time. The Sword God was impressed with her performance, so he dueled her himself, and when their fight started, Eris was instantly thrown out of the arena with the Sword God standing in her place, and that's when he announced that she would become a direct student of his, and that she was a sword saint. Do you know why in Charlotte you didn't help Tamori when she was getting bullied? You was watching the whole interaction between Tamori and her bullies when they attacked her, and admitted that it wasn't cool, but for some reason he decided not to step in and help. During this time, Yu's opinion of Tamori was also becoming a lot more positive, as he had started to trust her decisions more, stopped complaining when she asked him to do things, sympathized with her past, and even thought she was amazing after he saw how much effort she put into saving a little girl during one of their missions. So the reason he decided not to step in and help her out could be one of two things. It could be because he didn't think it was worth the effort and didn't care, just like how Tamori thought it wasn't worth the effort to go and get payback on them like Misa had suggested. But that's probably not the reason, given the fact that Yu didn't think what the bullies were doing were okay, and he even checked up on Tamori after the bullies had left. So that means the more likely reason that Yu didn't step in and help is likely because Takajo said he believed he knew what was going on, but it was still best not to step in, and Yu knew that there was probably a reason it was happening given Tamori's nature, on top of her not even trying to defend herself. Did you know that in ReZero, Wilhelm was so powerful, he managed to do something nobody else in history has ever done? During his prime, Wilhelm had a reputation of being the strongest swordsman alive, even surpassing the strength of the current Sword Saint. However, he wasn't just stronger than the current Sword Saint, as it has been stated that he is stronger than every single Sword Saint in history besides Reinhard and Reed. What's even more surprising is that Wilhelm was able to achieve this level of strength despite not having any authorities, divine protections, or magic, and his abilities were from pure skill. Eventually, he gained the title of Sword Demon because of his talent with the sword, and he would even duel the kingdom of Wallachhia's strongest warrior and win. On top of this, he would challenge the Sword Saint of his time, his wife, Theresa, in a duel, and he would also win that, making him the first person in history to have ever defeated a Sword Saint in a duel. Did you know why Kuze wasn't invited to Alia's birthday party and Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? They were friends long before Alia turned 15, and even though being invited to a birthday party was a show of friendship in Russia, for some reason, Alia still didn't invite him. However, in the light novels, this gets revealed. After Alia hung up the phone with Kuze, where she found out that she missed his birthday, she began overthinking about if they were really friends or not. It was then that she remembered remembered that she also didn't invite him to her birthday party the year before, but she also recalled her embarrassing excuse as to why. To her, her birthday was an entirely different situation. This was because she genuinely wanted to invite him to her party, but since Kuze was her only friend, he'd be the only person there who wasn't a part of her family. On top of this, Kuze was a boy, and this made Alia scared that her family would tease her about it daily, so she decided not to invite him.